Good morrow to the losses and losses. This is Rakkety Tom Matthias 720 coming to you for Rakkety Tom Book 1 with me bra wee friend here, Wild Jeremy Plum.
Hi, laddie. It's good to be here.
And Sister Katie Armel.
Oh, yes, hello. I really don't get much of a personality until book 2. However, I think it's a great plan to walk in the middle of the woods because Martin said so.
And, of course, our bra wee producer, Pete the Savage.
It's kind of clear that we've lost about anyone from Scotland. We were listening to us. Maybe we look for nuclear vessels instead.
We can't hold the listeners, laddie. We don't have the power.
Well, maybe if we drop the accents, they'll stick around and listen.
Oh, yes, thank you.
No promises.
I'm sorry to all the people we offended.
No, we're not.
Well, yeah.
Well, maybe we could be.
If you were offended by our stupid, poor accents, I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, I'm literally in the same state as Yakov Smirnov. So, whatever.
I thought you were going to say Yoko Ono.
Oh, no.
Exactly.
So, yes, we are back in a new year. We are back with the Redwall books because it's been a while. Basically, we haven't been doing this since September. October. Because we ended the year with Castaways of the Flying Dutchman, The Angel's Command. And then we did our Redwall Cookbook and Redwall A Winter's Tale.
Yep.
Which was very much fun.
Oh my God, yes.
So much fun.
And yeah, we are back with the Prime books. And we are two one of the noted fan favorites, not just Matthias, because I'm sure I haven't read all of it yet, so we'll find out why. But one of the constant criticisms of the series while it was ongoing was Badgers were a trump card in every book they're in. With very few exceptions, few Badgers actually die in combat. Looking at you, Earthstripe.
One is the loneliest.
And Bor the Fighter, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
And Stonepaw.
Stonepaw, yeah.
Oh man, 3.
It only counts when they have to make the heroic last stand and people can't get to them at the last minute.
Yeah, 3.5. Craig can pretty much... Yeah.
Or I was going to say, in Earthstripe's case, it was fight till near death, grab your opponent, and then leap off the mountain.
Whee!
So, that being said, one of the fan criticisms is that Badgers are pretty much a trump card. And there is a fair bit of criticism here. They are the biggest single species in the Redwall universe. They have freaking blood wrath, so they are, while not invincible, they can pretty much are almost immune to pain and will charge at 1,000 vermin army just to get at the one guy. And they tend to have a standing army in the form of Salamandastron, much less, or an Abbey to back them up if they're the Badger Mom. So what could possibly Brian to do this to correct this? Well, give the bad guys their own version of the Badger, and this is the one book we get it.
I'd say Wildcats also kind of fit that bill for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, you have Wildcats, which we have one coming up soon. Oh. I won't spoil it for Pete.
Yes, because we are past the point I left the series, so I'm reading all of this stuff new for the first time.
And then we also have fully grown adders, which are just terrifying to every single living creature on the planet.
Well, yes.
But what could possibly Brian write into the series that would be a British species and be that big of a threat to a Badger? Wolverine. And I know because everyone is thinking it, get your Logan and or Red Dawn jokes out of the way.
Bub.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to rescind that. I will allow the occasional bub if not as necessary.
Okay.
But for our Red Dawn fans, Wolverines! Okay.
I don't know what that is, so.
Red
Just
Dawn
nod and go on with it.
It is a mid-'80s basically fever dream movie that is, I mean, it is bad. It is utterly bad. It's this what if scenario if Cuba and Soviet Russia invaded the United States. And in the middle of Colorado, this sleepy town, little town, the high schoolers stage a guerrilla war against the invading Soviets, and they're called the Wolverines.
Aha.
And
Okay.
don't get me wrong, I will watch that movie just for the fun of it because it is kind of fun, but it is entirely too political at the same time. And because Hollywood is creatively bankrupt, as has been established, it was remade a few years ago with Chris Hemsworth.
I thought you were about to say they're going to be remaking it.
Oh no, it was remade and no one cared.
Oh, okay. I didn't even realize they remade. Did it have the same name or?
Yes. Yes, it
Oh
did.
wow.
That's
But
one of those
instead of the
concepts.
Russians and Cubans invading, it was North Korea.
Oh boy.
Wow.
It's one of those concepts that sounds good on paper, but for anybody who knows anything about cinema, it's like you have to have somebody that buys into that concept 100% for it to be anything other than 100% cheese fest.
And without getting into politics on this show, yeah, it stretches the line of disbelief way too far. So
Anyway, back to book. This is
Back
my
to the-
favorite book.
Yay!
This is so much fun.
And as said, we have a Wolverine villain who
Yep.
is just as big, if not a little bigger, than any conventional Badger. Moreover, we run into several descriptions of our primary villain, Gulo. Yet more on his name in a minute. Who it suggests that should it become to a feral fight between him and any Badger, he's going to have the advantage because where a Badger's claws are designed for digging, a Wolverine's are designed for slashing.
Yep.
Bub.
So we're saying that Gulo is the best there is at what he does?
Yes.
Okay. That's my only reference to that. But
So for the record, Gulo is a name. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get Brian was stretching to meet some names towards the end.
Oh, we'll get on it. We'll get on the names throughout this section of the book.
I want to address Gulo because it's just the most obvious. Like, wait, what? Like, it's not that it's silly, but it's almost lazy because Gulo is literally the Latin name for Wolverine.
Oh,
Literally means glutton.
that's like Pearls of Lucha was otter.
Yeah.
Otter in Latin.
Holt Otter.
Yep.
Yep.
That being said, Gulo as a villain name, is actually pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so used to it by now that I'm just like, yeah, Gulo, that sounds fine.
Of the
Yep.
names in this book, Gulo is at the far end, is like at the bottom end of wackiness.
See, I didn't
So-
think
Yeah.
the names were that bad in this one, but maybe I'm thinking of Doomlight and Rogue Crew. So
Some of these names get silly, but most of them are, they're okay.
Oh, I'll get to the ones that are goofy.
Oh, by all means.
There's so many. I think at one point I even put a note saying, like, I'm not trying to harp on the names, but come on. So,
But names aside, it's
Mhm.
not so much the names of the characters, but the characters themselves that make this book just so much fun. I mean,
Yeah.
if you had
Yeah.
swapped out some of the names from previous Redwall books, some of the character names that were actually good, you probably could have had a book that was like 10 out of 10. Everybody knows what this book is. It's just that great.
oh yeah, no, there's nothing against the quality of the characters or of the book itself. The names are we're definitely in the era of wackiness with them right now. But no, there's plenty of parts in this book where, like, it's only a short section, but when Tam, Doogie, and Ferdinand are all working together, gave me good memories of Mossflower when Martin, Gonf, and Dinny were on their way to Salamandastron.
yeah, I was just gonna make the comment that I haven't enjoyed a close friendship more since Martin and Gonf. Like it doesn't copy Martin and Gonf, but it just feels like these guys have been together. I guess Burgoon and Sarah were really good too, but like I just love the friendship between these two.
Yeah.
I
The
would
old battle buddies is always a great dynamic.
Mhm.
Yes, it is. And I would go so far as to say that there is a lot of one-to-one comparisons you can make with Mossflower. Also with the dynamic between the main villain and the main villain's sibling.
I didn't
Oh,
get
yeah.
that one. I didn't think about. That's a good point.
So, I mean, there's probably a lot more comparisons that we haven't thought of yet, but it seems like Brian really got back to his roots in terms of storytelling. He took what he had learned in terms of formula and developing his writing style, and basically put out what was a more polished variant of Mossflower.
I was going to ask, this feels like a soft reboot at points. Because at certain points, he explains basic concepts that any long-term fan of the series would already know.
Yeah, did you know that Martin helped found Redwall? Because I had no idea.
I was referring to when he explains what a Dibbon is. We all know what a Dibbon is by this point.
I feel like there are a few things where I was like, I feel like we've seen this before, this explanation before, but also it does feel like this ever since post Tagarung, each of these books has been its own self-contained thing. Like it hasn't continued to a storyline or anything. So it feels like each of these are now being written as you could read this as your first book and understand everything that's going on and understand the background about things.
I will add to that and say there's a concept in mostly animated television shows for children, but this idea that every 7 years you have to do a reboot of your properties because what
Evergreen
was popular
properties.
with... What was that?
It's called evergreen in the industry.
Yeah, so you started over because the kids that were at the very bottom of your demographic when the show started are now aged out and they probably won't be watching anymore. So that you can get a new group of kids in and you can rebrand, make things a little bit more hip and cool for the young kids. I mean, as cool as you can be for corporate executives, but...
Is that why like the last 2 seasons of the old Ninja Turtle show are so bizarre and different from everything else?
Actually, that's because Batman the Animated Series was kicking their butts in ratings, and there you go.
Oh, well, that too.
I mean, to briefly diverge, this is why you see reboots of properties about every 7 years, and if you do it too soon, you actually you'll lose what audience you're trying to reach. For example, Jeremy mentioned Ninja Turtles. He and I both watched the 2012 run of CGI animation Ninja Turtles on Nickelodeon, and that one was gone maybe 6 months before the next round came, and it just got canceled because no one was wanting to watch it. So there you go. But back to Redwall.
Yes.
So
We're not even on prologue yet.
I know. Our prologue begins with no one who will be in the book. It is a recorder who not only is writing stuff down, but writes down in first person. What?
Yep.
That's a little different than normal.
Well, whenever we get the prologue, epilogue person writing in the record, like actually doing the recording, it is in first person. Like when Tim Churchmouse closed out Madame Mayo and things like that. So when it's in like the law, when it's actually written as like the historical document, it's in first person. But this one does feel a little more like, "Hi, audience."
Yeah.
I'm winking at the camera. Wink.
Or
I'm
she's
breaking
the
the
first
fourth
one
red wall.
She's the first one out.
Oh dear.
She's the first one out on an empty stage with a spotlight.
Yeah.
Basically saying, here's the play you're about to watch. 2 households, both alike. And no.
I was thinking more Cecil B. DeMille.
I will say I do like this little prologue, and I have always enjoyed the framing devices in the series. And I will say I might be the only one, but I have to ask: am I the only one who saw the warrior who sold his sword and immediately thought of the David Bowie song, "The Man Who Sold the World"?
No, but
No, I didn't.
All right. So that being said, our book 1 literally begins with a picture of our named character who is chained to a wall, and laddie, He looks like he's had gone through this before.
Yeah. He looks very perturbed. Like he doesn't look it's not like I'm trapped. He's just like, "Ah, not again."
And for the record, that opening we started with is on purpose because we're gonna find out our title character and his best friend are from the equivalent of Scotland.
Yep.
And here he's dressed in a tartan and kilt.
Yep.
And we get our book one has an opening poem in Scottish accent.
It's definitely a song in the audiobook, and it's pretty fun. Like all
Oh,
the people
yeah.
singing it are having a blast.
It's great, and mild spoilers, not spoilers. We get one between each of the books, so it basically acts as a transitional thing. So you'll get one before book one, before book two, before book three, and at the end of book three.
Cool.
And each one follows the same pattern.
Cool.
Cool.
So the other thing I want to point out is I went on Red Wiki and tried to keep myself from what spoilers I could. I mean, yeah, some were unavoidable, but one of the things they mentioned about Google himself is that among the community, he's considered the dumbest villain.
He definitely is not very smart.
No.
Now, he's not stupid, clearly, as we're going to go along. He's smart enough to listen to his officers, which,
Yes.
considering other villains we've seen who don't, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
But at least in this first portion, I can't comment on books 2 and 3 yet. Yeah, he's not showing a lot of initiative on his own merits.
I feel like he's the type of character who's the leader because he's the biggest and the strongest, not because he's the smartest.
And the most like dangerous, like the most I do
Yeah.
not care what I do to you. Like I don't care who I have to kill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Our chapter 1, and there are some very short chapters in this, like 2 pages.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's the other thing. Our chapter 1 begins on a clearly large ship. I would guess I won't. Maybe a frigate would be the best way to put this. A ship
It's
of
a very
war.
large vessel.
Yes.
Oh dear.
A very large. Has 4 masts, and they bring this up in text. And interesting of note, on the prow is what looks to be a dragon head. Hold that thought on that. But we're first introduced to our villain, who is apparently hunting his brother Ascor.
Yep. Which I absolutely love one of the lines in this chapter, like the first sentence in the second paragraph, which is lightning ripped through the racing storm clouds, illuminating Gulo's questing eyes. That is awesome.
Yep.
Well, it's a
Mhm.
good thing lightning doesn't strike the ship. And yeah, I'm going for a Link's Awakening joke. Come on.
Yeah, Brian just has this way of making weather feel both immersive and imposing. Like,
Yeah.
I can feel how I would feel if I was in that situation, and I would not be happy. So it's like, good job, Brian. You make me hate the weather.
Yeah. It's very short. Like Pete said, honestly, it's maybe a page if you combine because it's on 2 pages, but the first half of the first page is just the image and the second half of the second page is blank. So, but it's very effective. It sets up Gulo exactly how we need to know what he is. He's an unstoppable monster.
And here's my first point where that may be accurate to the point that he's a smart villain. We're told that his brother is a thief. He stole a quote walking stone from the land of snow and ice, where their once mighty Drams held
The
it.
Z.
Yeah. And we don't know what it is yet, other than, according to this Wolverine law, whoever holds the stone is king. But we're also told that Ghoul killed his dad with his claws for funsies. So,
Yep.
I'm sitting here like, if he was half as smart as Verdaga, or maybe Ergen, or another villain or two, he'd been like, I don't need the stone. I'm a freaking Wolverine. I'll make my own rules. And just let his young brother go.
I think he's pretty superstitious though, which is the thing. Like he's definitely has this like law is you must have the walking stone.
Yeah, and we've seen this thing with villains before, like in the Long Patrol, where they said that that specific sword was like the sign of office from the leader of the Rapscallions. Like whoever can wield that is the leader.
So it's less of a case of, I'm the biggest, I'm the strongest, I say goes. It's more, I need to make sure that everybody respects me and will do as I say because I'm the biggest and strongest, but I also have the token of office to go with it.
Yeah.
And, true executive power comes from a mandate from the masses, not some loony father deciding a stone is your badge of office.
Oh, so we've seen that with the heroes too. Remember in Salamandastron, Logalog needed to get the stone that we never see ever again in any other Gaussum group to show that he was the leader.
It was in like 3 books and then it was gone forever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, wasn't it like here's the microphone stone in the original book?
Yep.
Whoever's holding it is allowed to talk.
And then in Madameo it appeared briefly, and then by the time Pearls came around, didn't really hear about it ever again.
Much less, Matthias' shield that Martin never used.
Yeah, well.
But somehow it's attached to him.
Oh, I was going to make a comment. I was like, wait, that was a fanfic. Never mind.
So, yes.
I also like at the end of this chapter how it's just like Gulo is coming.
Yeah.
Yep. And fair, Brian's writing here makes him about. Clooney is our gold standard of villainy. This is established, but this is pretty threatening because we know he's coming from Mossflower Country by a ship, and since technically Wolverines, at least according to the Bastion of All Knowledge Wikipedia, don't have a native range in Britain, but probably could if enough ice formed. Yeah, this actually makes sense. They are in northern
this
Europe.
book about talking animals has some realism in it.
They are in
But
northern
that's
Europe.
just a theory. A red wall theory. Thanks for listening.
So our proper story begins in Redwall Abbey and brace yourself. This isn't late spring, summer. It's in winter.
What? That's appropriate. That's appropriate for where we are.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're in winter.
This. We totally
planned
planned
this.
this. That we didn't just happen to start this book in the middle of winter.
We've had everything
clearly not a
meticulously planned since the beginning.
And certainly
All those
not
random
because
delays, those were on purpose.
Yep.
Yeah.
not because I'm lazy and sometimes don't get to editing duties later than I should have.
Nope.
Nope.
Never ever.
Clearly not.
So our story begins proper in winter, and what do you know? The Abbey finally got its act together and aren't waiting for Martin to appoint their chief officers.
The Council of Elders did it all by themselves.
Yeah. 2 seasons after the passing of Abbess Fertilla, they elevate the chief cellar keeper, a cellar hog, Humble, really, to the
He has
father
his own
Abbess.
bundle, though.
Say again?
He has his own bundle. His humble bundle.
Oh my.
He keeps it in a bindle.
Our Father Abbott for this book is a hedgehog who also still maintains his job in the cellar keepers, although he does delegate the major duties to another person. But yeah, he sleeps down there and that's where he lives. This is his house because it's pretty much it took a long time for the Council of Elders to persuade him to take the job.
Yep. I like him a lot. He's very gentle and sweet.
Yep. He's very smart. As abbots go, he's good about delegating while still doing what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, they outright put it in the book. Humble is as humble does. And it's just like
Life is like a keg of October ale.
Oh
no! But he's just like he does what he wants to do because it makes him happy. He's a simple creature. He just happens to also be the one that they turn to make the big decisions.
Yep.
And he's a really great guy.
I love it later when he's like playing with the divins. It's like, let's have tea.
Yes. Oh my god, I love that part. Yep.
Oh.
We meet Burlop.
Burlop.
And Friar Glissom, and I wonder if he glistens.
That name is recycled in Doom White BTW.
Right, really?
Yes.
It wasn't even that good of a name. Why is it being used twice?
Maybe you just forgot. I don't know.
To be fair, I forgot most of these names, and I'm like, now I'm seeing why. I'm like, oh, right. Now it's really hard to remember some of these names. uh, and it's a nice change to get this, like, a story in the dead of winter, because we don't see this too often.
It was very cozy.
Yep.
And Abbot Humble gets up at the crack of dawn, maybe even pre-dawn, and he somehow knows that it's like, it's snowy outside. Let me prepare.
I want an internal weather radar, please.
And he goes, he gets food from the kitchens and takes it up to, what is this? The Night Watch? We actually have a Night Watch now?
Yep.
Competence? What?
Well, the skipper of otters, and we do find he does have later some of his crew are not named, but they are present. They're in residence at Redwall over the winter. So,
Which I would do that if I were them too.
Yep.
Good food and warm fires without having to worry about. Yeah, I'd probably do the same. And of course, Skipper, of course, is in otter. He gets hot root powder into his oatmeal because
You know.
and also
and a smidge of nutmeg.
Yeah, that. And it's a really great scene because we actually see where it's described to us the sun rising over the woods on a cold winter morning.
And the snow badger arrived. He has been there.
Yep.
Hey guys, don't mind me.
And I love it. Skipper sees Abbot Humble coming out, and he's like, who goes there? Friend, foe, or food? I like the cut of his jib.
And we get from the chapter artwork, we get two travelers who come right up to the abbey with a cart.
Wandering Walt and Hither Yon Gem.
Cousin Gem, actually, as well.
I feel like a Who's on First routine could start with Hither Yon Gem's name.
And this does sound a little familiar compared to, Loamhedge, where we have two abbey dwellers who do make the rounds and then come back home. But it's a different tone this time. It's not two former, naughty Dibbins. These are regular adults who choose to go out and basically go travel the length and breadth of Mossflower on their own terms. But hey, guys, let us in. It's cold.
Yeah.
Well, and if they didn't travel, I mean, Wandering Walt's name would be a lie.
Yeah.
It'd be Stay-at-Home Walt and There Yon Jim.
And then the gatekeeper's just like, hey, knock it off. I want to sleep. Dude, you have one job.
Yeah.
Open the door.
Wait. Hither Yon Gem is the abbot's cousin. Does the abbot have, like, a great uncle called Heretofore Tom?
Well, Cousin Gem is truly outrageous. And all of you older 80s might have gotten a laugh at that. Older 80s kids may have gotten a laugh at that. So.
Insert crickets here.
Yeah, I don't know.
There was it was Hannah Montana before Hannah Montana was a thing.
I know what it is.
Okay.
I get the reference.
That also had a movie based on it come out a couple of years ago that flopped.
Yes. But yes, they invite their two new guests in, but not before. And exactly what we saw in Redwall Winter's Tale happens. Where
Snowball fight!
all the Dibbins with who have not been dressed for winter run outside.
But
They
oh my
all
gosh,
then
you guys,
froze.
you guys, speaking again to the competence, when they all go inside, Skipper's like, hey, random crew otter, please watch the Dibbins so none of them get hurt out there.
Especially when they go down to the pond that's iced over.
Yes.
Yep.
We're told to stick ice, but you want adult supervision for that.
Yep.
And as always, per Redwall tradition, there are no parents.
Uh-huh.
Just
No
all
identified.
orphans.
Or they're just still sleeping. It's like, wait, where'd my kid go? Oh man.
Skipper's crew will take care of it.
I'm about
Yeah.
to say, if you're in Redwall and you're a parent with kids, you probably don't have to worry about someone watching your kids the first thing in the morning.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say if you're a parent with kids at Redwall, you have a really good life insurance policy.
There's that too.
I bet they're all the adults are just up in the dormitory, sleeping off whatever they ate last night because they were probably up until the wee hours of the morning, just like more candied acorns, please. Let's just
It's funny you mention that because there's going to be an obvious adult party that they're going to have to recover from later, but that's another story.
Yes.
And I also love as they, kids go out and play, and as they come back in, several Divins, one Mimsy in particular, has to be told, hey, take the snowball back outside.
Yes. I mean, if you're going to bring a snowball indoors, at least put it in the freezer so aliens can steal it later.
Right.
What?
Exactly.
What?
Okay, you probably didn't watch Arthur as a kid. You're probably a little too old for that, but there was an episode where Arthur's sister TW brings in a snowball from outside. They put it in the freezer, and later it disappears, and it becomes a running joke.
Ah, noted. Oh,
I
and
had
also,
to fit that in there somewhere.
I mean, if I'm going to make a gem joke, yeah, that's fair. And for the record, we also have a kid who brings in a long-pointed icicle.
That kid's growing up to become a serial killer.
And the people, and the people that take care of them are Sister Armel, who is the infirmary keeper. Did we already go through this?
No,
My brain is all over the place tonight. Okay, and then the recorder, Sister Screeve, which is kind of an unfortunate name.
Screeve.
I don't mind Armel. That's fine.
I'm sure she makes good caramel.
Oh my goodness.
But Sister Screeve, I can take it or screeve it.
Dang.
No. That was terrible.
Dang. So the reason I wanted to tell you to remember Google's ship design because we see his brother's ship shortly hereafter, at least in the artwork. Chapter 3 begins, and literally it is, and let's make no mistake, this is a classical Viking design ship, at least in most of the media you probably grew up with. It has dragon heads on either end. It is a short, narrow craft with one mast sail.
By Gulo's beard.
And I could make a Swedish chef joke, but I can't.
Well,
maybe when we actually see Asgore later. So
it's obvious that his Asgore's ship was forked.
It could use some corks.
But yes, chapter 3 actually begins with the Red Wallers welcoming their guest home, and they're like, and after they feed them because they haven't had reasonable food in a long time, they're basically eating to bursting. And they're like, oh yeah, let's tell you about just the weird thing we found.
Yes, because all they do in winter.
This is a story all about how this Wolverine got flipped upside down.
I was just gonna say, in the winter, they're always talking about how all they do is eat, sleep, and tell stories. I'm like, yep, this is pretty much what it is.
Yep.
But before we get there, they also do update us. Hey, yeah, Salamander Strong is still a thing, and we will see these characters. We will see the mountain and its garrison later. We have a Badger Lady.
Yep.
Molesme, but we'll see her later.
Bless you.
So, and she apparently the reason they bring her up is she's sending a gift. Yeah. Apparently, anytime a Badger Lord decides to send the Abbey a gift, it goes terribly wrong.
Second time.
I mean, and
also,
they're both Bell related.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, this isn't a gift as in, hey, I'm going to send you a small contingent of hares to help with defenses and things like that because you guys always seem to come under attack. No, we're sending you a drum because your bells were broken the last time I was there or down for cleaning. And I was like, I want you to have something. And it's like, all right. I guess that log that they used before the bell got eaten by termites. So
yeah.
I think it it was a thoughtful idea. You
Yeah.
know, just like, and clearly this will have a lot of, you know, every book from here on after this drum will be mentioned clearly. So
Sometimes it will be, but sometimes it won't. At least within this book. Sorry.
It'll always be there. We'll just never hear about it ever again.
Oh, one thing I missed in chapter 2, the cellar keeper has a forge. It's mentioned.
Yep.
So finally confirmation that they have some metalworking, although all the way back in Legend of Luke, they did say, oh, we sometimes will reuse a kitchen fire and heat it up hotter for metal forging. But no, the cellar keeper, actually, probably the one person in Redwall who's most going to need it, has a metalworking station. Good for them.
And
So,
I just want to say the drum gift, and then Abbott Humble being like, well, that's thoughtful of her. I'm going to have to send her, you know, a barrel of, you know, something in return. And it's like,
Wine.
yeah, it's just, it screams dignitaries trading gifts to improve relations between countries.
Yeah.
I
Well,
was going to say, how are you going to get that barrel of something all the way out to Salamandastron?
That was my first thought. I was like, okay, we're gonna get several.
That's going to get
squirrels or
stolen.
otters. Yeah.
Hey guys, do we still have the Wud ship? What? What is
What
he
ship?
talking about?
What ship? What ship?
Yes. Exactly.
That's what I want to know.
Because even in Legend of Luke, yeah, what ship is missing? But
It's gone.
that's another story. Molesme, yeah, apparently she had took a liking to Redwell wine, so maybe instead of smoking that Salamandastine, you know, there you go.
I was going to say, you don't want to mix Salamandastine and alcohol or else.
Oh, that was Craig's advice.
I was gonna say
actually.
that's how Craig happened.
But it does. They do say Molesme did come by the Abbey about 4 summers ago. So with a troop of long patrol hares. So yes, establishing better relations.
Yep. And there was no big danger at the time either. So it's like, oh, you came here for a social visit. That's a miracle.
Yes.
So
They continue on.
Hitherion Gem.
Jimmy.
People want to say Jim, but Hillbilly Jim starts
Jimmy
telling
Jim,
the
Jimmy
story.
Jim, 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 Jim.
Hush, Gonzo.
I was gonna say he starts the hillbilly starts talking about how when he went out shooting for some food and found some bubble and crude. There's my obscure reference. So Walt falls asleep during the story, which I'm perfectly fine with because look, I love the moles. I don't need a full multi-page tale told by one.
That's why I'm wondering if that's why Jake's did that. It's like, let's just put them all to sleep so the hedgehog can die.
So yes, they do find first. We are told the pair had found the ship and then followed the tracks the unknown creature made all the way to where they found it, and it's bigger than a badger. And they say the claws are definitely based on the paw tracking are sharper than a badger's.
That sounds like something I would want to follow unknowingly.
Yeah. I mean, they may have been genuinely concerned where it was going because obviously it's going towards Redwall.
Yeah.
But yes, they do find Ascor, who apparently fell afoul of a dead tree that just decided to fall over at the right time.
Yeah. I guess he was just ass-scoring for trouble.
And they find Ascor, who his back is broken. He is dying underneath his tree, and even among vermin, like who would probably swallow their pride enough to ask for help, Asgard, he will not do it. And this is where I would make a Swedish chef joke, but there's not a lot of material here because he outright threatens these two random people who came up to him, threatening to eat them.
Yep.
More on that later. But they toss him water and food, and he tosses it right back.
Yep.
He's angry.
Yep. And then he does all the exposition.
Yes.
Yeah.
I come from the land of ice and snow.
Yeah, it's chapter 3 of a Redwall book. Is this the same Brian Jakes we've been reading this whole time? Because we now know what the main threat is and that it's coming.
And yeah, although I want to say he's singing Led Zeppelin's "Immigrant Song." I come from land of the essence now. Viking. Okay. But yeah, he basically said outright in exposition, he's like, "Yeah, my brother's coming. He's going to kill all of you because Wolverines find their enemies and they eat them."
Delicious.
And so
Yummy.
but Gulo, I've won because Gulo, even if he finds my dead body, he won't find the Walking Stone.
Yep. And then apparently Asgore, who is, as we've seen, is a savage, barely has a grasp on the English language, but apparently came up with this complicated riddle to explain where he hid the Walking Stone.
Yeah, I found this kind of weird.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Really?
He's well read in other languages.
yeah. I
And
doubt
uh-huh.
Asgore, a Wolverine, has the poetry chops to compose such a poem. I mean, Gingivier, maybe as far as like possibly affable vermin go, but no, I'm going to say no on the Wolverine.
Yeah. My thought later on was, I bet Gonf saw this going on and went like, ooh, I'm going to inhabit him for a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Asgore, like we said, he has enough intelligence to not only tell the Red Waters where to find it, but tell them in riddle poem form. Because it wouldn't be a Brian Jakes book without a riddle poem.
Yep. Yep. And then we find that Gulo will be bringing his trackers, which are more of the adorable Irvine. They're coming back.
Oh, and Asgore apparently tries one last time to get the tree off of himself and dies from the exertion.
Yep.
I got it. I ain't got it.
Bleh.
Yeah. So, and yeah, I'm pretty sure Gulo is going to be able to find them anyway. I mean, come on. Let's be fair.
It wouldn't be much of a book, yeah, if he didn't face one of the two major centers of power.
I don't think
Yes.
we're ever going to have a Redwall book where the villains look at Redwall and go, that place looks nice. All right, let's keep moving.
Or it's like, I can't find it. I looked the entire book and I can't find it. Oh,
Yeah.
well.
The plot demands it. The
Yeah.
plot gets what the plot wants.
Right.
Well, it's kind of like William Shatner said when they were doing Star Trek: The Search for Spock. He's like, we kind of had to bring Spock back because what else were we gonna do? At the end of the movie, we go, well, we didn't find him.
And then we get something pretty clever from Skipper, who's basically like, well, sounds like we might have some trouble coming our way. So, Night Watch, we're going to cut down on those fires up on the wall top. Let's not draw attention to ourselves, eh? It's like,
Yeah.
good for you, man.
And somewhere in the afterlife, both Sonya and Martin glare at Luke.
Like, I was just trying to have a party.
Yeah, and so it's obvious the Abbey Dwellers are finally reading and learning from the archives.
Oh,
Yay.
my
miracle.
goodness.
Yep. And then we get like our reintroduction to Martin, which, did you know that Martin fought to free Mossflower?
What?
Well, he needed
Huh?
to get his appearance fees for the book, so
Yes.
And so then chapter 4, we go to Squirrel Kingdom with Araltum and Idga. Okay, now
Araltum.
Jake's is just using a letter randomizer.
It's actually Erroltum, which I think sounds a little bit more kingly.
yeah.
Araltum.
Erroltum.
Even if the character himself is no king.
Yeah.
So-
So I have a few issues with this. Like, I never really enjoy, and this is just me being a picky adult, but I don't, and this isn't Harry Potter too. It's definitely not specifically a Redwall thing. I think it's a children's book thing. But the villain, like the greedy villain, usually always is fat, and they take great pleasure in describing how fat and ugly they are. And I don't really like that. And I do get, and the reason I don't have a huge issue with it is because we get Doogie Plum, who is also overweight and hilarious and awesome. But I think it'd be a lot more interesting if Erroltum and Iggo were like a beautiful squirrel couple who were like ridiculously evil and like vain, and it would just be more interesting if they weren't fat. And like they put a lot of detail in describing how fat and ugly they are.
I think
I-
part
I
of it
get
might
that.
be is they're so lazy that they've become
Yeah.
overweight. Like we don't get that many overweight squirrels in this series because Their whole
Yeah.
thing is they're running around, and even Oak Tom, who I think he was like a little husky, he was still a scary dude.
Yeah, and I mean Jangler, I think was also overweight and was also awesome. So that's why I don't have like as I actually have a bigger issue with it in Harry Potter, to be honest. But like I just thought I'd point it out just because, it's a little icky.
I think the idea is that it's not only their slothfulness, but their like eating of all this like super rich food. It's they are the elements of sloth and gluttony personified. They are everything that you don't want to be. So it's not so much an indictment on their weight, but their weight is an indictment on their character.
It'd be one thing if we see this respective king and queen acting noble of any sort of fashion, because you've got the whole idea of a quote muscle gut is a very real thing, especially in Olympic weightlifters, where they look fat, but they're muscular as all hell. Same thing with sumo wrestlers. Yeah.
They're pure muscle, but they just look really large. Well, most the healthy ones are pure muscle. The unhealthy ones are not.
So, odd question: where this Pine Grove that this royal couple rules over we're told is about 2 leagues south of Salmanastron. We're going to get to how they relate to Salmanastron later when the Badger Lady brings it up. But is this the same Pine Grove from Juka the Sling all the way back in Lord Brocktree?
I was thinking that too, actually.
Oh, I never thought about that. That is brilliant.
Yeah, because it did say that like her tribe got their Brocktree said that they can have like a certain area. Like if you want to establish that as your new home, go for it.
That's cool. I think that's canon.
Yeah. I do have to say, they're like, we're going to have our celebration, the marking of the marshes. And I was like, does that mean you're going to go and like pee on stuff to mark your territory? Like that. I'm sorry. That's exactly what it sounded like to me. And they are animals.
From what we gathered, this is basically just a pomp and circumstance procession with the king and queen around their own territories to mark a new season. And given Redwallers themselves just have a massive feast every 3 months in the same fashion. But whereas they're, it's Redwall and they're humble and etc. In this case, this is just, hey, look at how good a king and queen we are. And we're told that outright, while most of the creatures who live with them do enjoy the protection because their own warriors do keep this land safe, relatively speaking, although I have more thoughts that that's the Long Patrol doing their jobs for them. The king and queen themselves just basically get really bored to the point that they start inflecting these micromanaging level regulations over their own people.
Okay, now I'm starting to like imagine Arltum or however you pronounce his name. He's like hedonism bot from Futurama.
Don't make tea come out my nose.
Let all who see this our royal standard.
You sound like he does in the audiobook. Were you going to say that?
Yeah, it's the same, exact same voice. It's
really
he's really high pitched and nasally, and she's just kind of, oh, I'm all aflutter. Oh,
I apologize for nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, without getting political, I think most people can think of at least like 1 or 2 people who fit the same mold that Errolton and Idka came from.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of ego and self-importance they exude is palpable and almost uncomfortable. It's like, when they're on the page, it's like, I kind of want them to get off the page now. Can we get back to the good characters? Thanks.
So, yes, our royal para are basically just parading around, and they have this fabulous banner that they spent all season making, and it's just blue, and it depicts their land, and I'm sure it's not going to be stolen. It's going to be stolen.
It's stolen before the end of the chapter.
But and apparently it's demoralizing on the people to lose it. Except that, okay, you made yourself a standard, fine, but this isn't like your tapestry of your major warrior savior figure or anything. And we're going to go into what all happens to them shortly. Meanwhile, we get 2 prisoners, the one who were pictured on the book one's cover, well, as
Rackety
Matthias
Tam.
and his BFF.
Yes.
Doogie Plum, MD.
I wasn't going to make that joke.
Too late.
And you know what? Tam and Doogie are like characters out of some big action movie where the loose cannon soldier's in the brig and is the only one who can complete the impossible odds mission and only do it if his records are cleared. Yeah, I mean, it's stereotypical, yeah, but it's enjoyable when it's done well, and it's done very well here.
This
I mean,
summer.
I just to pause for a second. After reading this chapter, Pete, do you see why this is my favorite book in the series?
Oh, these guys are the A team, especially with the hair buddy they get later.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of sass and snark is perfect. The heroes are great, but not too perfect. And the whole tone is just set perfectly for the rest of the book. The whole thing's fantastic.
Doogie
And I
and
hope-
Sam were in prison for a crime they didn't commit. But now, if you're in trouble and you know how to reach them, you can rely on the Squirrel Team.
Well, technically they did commit the crime, but
Yeah, I know I used a whole lot of superlatives there, but I think they're justified.
Yeah. So Doogie and Tam apparently had come south from the Northlands because, who doesn't? No one ever goes north.
no.
Sucks in this series, apparently.
Well, the only time you want to go north is so you can go get ice store flowers.
Apparently. So they came south. Apparently they lost family members through regular predatory vermin or death and starvation. So they don't have family. More orphans.
They have tragic backstory-itis.
Yes.
Oh, parents. But yes, they signed on to live under the Squirrel Kingdom and swore their swords to the terrible king and queen. However, they're not afraid to speak up their minds, and that's what's gotten them in trouble, essentially.
Yeah, I like how their captain friend is like, well, Doogie's like, we were just saying what everyone was thinking, and the captain's like, well, yeah, but we didn't say it out loud.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're trapped in this tree dungeon, and basically like, oh well, we're gonna find out what they have in store for us when they're done with the procession. Hey guys, why do I hear the red alert alarm bell?
Why are people screaming bloody murder?
Bloody murder! Bloody murder!
And so, yeah, they get let out. But I love how they take their time. They're like, hang on, we need to make sure our kilts are all set. And Doogie's like, we're looking bronze, sussy.
Don't mind us. We're just putting on this blue face makeup. Braveheart. Okay.
And you know what? Ambrose Spike could take insult lessons from these two.
Yeah.
You could.
Yes.
Or for Dottie, all the way back in Lord Brocktree too.
Oh,
Yep.
Dottie was great.
Love all four of them in a story together.
Oh man.
But yes, they're let out, and their fate. They realize something is very wrong. The king is wrapped in a black blanket, disheveled, shivering, and wailing.
Can't sleep. Wolverine will eat me. Can't sleep. Wolverine will eat me.
And his terrible queen apparently has swooned, fainted from what's gone wrong.
Yep.
And they're dabbing her with rose water. Oh,
Yep.
Lord.
Nice.
Yeah, this is where you get a bucket of water and you just toss it in her face. Wake up time!
And here we find two young soldiers in their natural habitat, being exploited by two others of the species who have delusions of power. What will become of them in the seasons to come? Let us observe.
So yes, basically we're told the king is outright sobbing, real kingly, buddy, that we were attacked by barbarians, hooligans, and monsters, and they've stolen the royal banner.
And he kept saying, I was almost killed. I was almost killed. Never mind the people that were actually killed.
Yeah.
You jerk. Yeah.
Much less the queen.
Well, he doesn't know that yet because he's too self-centered to realize that he wasn't the only one to escape being killed.
Yeah.
Will
He
ever
didn't hear the
realize
very
that?
large belch coming from where he was running from.
Yeah.
But yes, they were told, quote, There's hundreds of them. White vermin. They surrounded us. Then that thing, that Gulo, attacked without warning. Okay, yeah, they probably were ambushed. And interesting that they brought white-colored vermin, and you're running into spring.
Yep. And so
Okay.
Tam then like yells at Drilltig, who's like a quote unquote captain, who I'm just hearing all his dialogue like a whiny little kid. Like Badred was more of a man than this guy.
Well, I mean, it seems like he's very young and traumatized, and it's been a very peaceful time thus far. I don't really blame him for breaking
Yeah,
down.
I mean, if my theory is right that Salamandastron has actually been repelling the vermin, yeah, these guys probably aren't used to combat.
But there's also this Pine Tooth who's actually experienced, and he's just like he's ignoring his own injury to give his report. And like, look, even I haven't seen anything like this stuff before, man. Game
Yeah.
over, man.
But yes, the two soldiers are basically they're even berated by the queen. Like, where were you? We were in your
Oh,
dungeons.
That made me so
Locked
mad.
in the gatehouse.
Yeah.
The first time I read that, I had to like turn the book off, set the player down, and walk away for a second. I'm like, are you serious? Like,
Yeah.
And it helps that the voice actress who does her does such a good job of making her like super prissy, super full of herself, and just oblivious to anybody who's underneath her.
yes, Angela Mounsey for the win. Love
I
her.
hate to say it, but Ergen Nagru and Silvermore were more attentive to their own people.
Yep.
And they were a vermin couple.
Yes.
Oh god. And I like the touch those when Doogie comes back, he mentions that there are no enemy bodies.
Hmm.
It's like making it sound like whether or not they were taken away or had no losses, it's left up to everyone to guess which one it is, which adds some mystery and threat. But it's like if they clean sweeped all these squirrels, that means they're a big threat. Because obviously there were at least one or two that were experienced soldiers.
Right.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And don't get me
And-
wrong, an ambush is an ambush. But yeah, there should be at least one vermin there who took a wound.
Yep.
I mean, unless the vermin that died got snacked on and taken as well.
Hold
but-
that thought.
Yeah.
Uh,
Which is possible. I'm just saying, like, it's kind of left up for them to get, like, the audience and for the characters to wonder what happened. Like, did they
Mhm.
actually have no losses, or did they take their dead away with them,
so
or devour them?
the next chapter literally begins, and we see Tam at basically looking over what we can't see off panel, which I presume is a grisly scene of the massacre. But basically, they estimate by the tracks there's around 5 vermin. Accurate. Mostly foxes and stoats, so I see a big pawed one. Yeah, it's Gulo, and then that's obvious. So
Yeah.
Well, obviously it's Gulo, because Arlton said Gulo's name in the
yep.
chapter 4.
So and yes, we're brushed up. There's not one carcass of a phobos, and I do like how Tam's just like, yeah, bring the king and queen because they need to see this.
Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
Mhm.
And
Look
they're
at what you did! Look at what you did!
I hope you're proud of yourself.
Stick
go
his
to your
nose
room
in
and
it,
think
like,
about what you
you look
did."
at what you did. Don't do this again.
and we're even told the king and queen don't want to look at the massacre. I get it; it's grisly, but these were your people, and they still don't care.
Nope.
Mhm.
They're still the queen is still like, oh my banner.
Yes.
Yes, that was the greatest loss among all this.
I worked a full season on that. I'm traumatized.
So
I,
yeah.
I even pricked my paw once or twice with the needle.
So we're told that Doogie and Tam, I mean, it's a grisly business, but they're like, yeah, there's the captains
Mhm.
What's left of them?
and what's left of them, and then there's mostly what looks like singers and flute players, and as about half of them are missing.
Mhm.
Oh,
You. Interesting to note too that it's like they took so many. Basically, they're saying that all of Gulo's followers will eat them too.
Mhm.
Because I doubt Gulo is going to eat every single one that they took with them.
So let's bring this up. Since this has been, we keep mentioning it, and so when Asgore was met earlier, he threatened to eat them, and you could probably say, "Oh, okay, vermin sometimes will threaten the good side with eating them," and on occasion we've run into implied cannibalism, all the way with the Flitch Eye, all the way back in Legend of Luke, and a few others. Certainly, and the vermin. The fact that vermin kill and hunt and kill birds has always been a thing, a grisly thing, but we really haven't gone that much into it. But this book doesn't pull punches. Doesn't leave it up to question. Oh no, Gulo and his vermin eat people.
Yep.
And we get aftermath of it, like, because we're told straight up that like cannibal lizards and frog and toads and all that other stuff, and obviously
but we've never seen it happen. Like actually, someone get eaten. Oh
exactly.
no,
That's my point. Like, we actually get the aftermath and remains of corpses, and like they found like a headless body at one point. Like, it's okay.
Yep.
Now,
It's one of the few times where it's like, you know what? This is my favorite book. I would not recommend this to any child under the age of 13 because it's just a little too brutal.
It's
for kids.
It's something.
But yeah, we're told that his crew definitely does eat people, and you could maybe even go back to Asmodeus, who's again that chaotic evil character who just takes it, but who will eat what he wants. But no, this is deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, this isn't like creature following its natural instincts. This is, I've defeated you, and now I'm going to devour your bodies.
And that being said, almost every creature in the species type in the Redwall series, if it's not a predator directly, is certainly an omnivore of some kind. Rats and mice will happily eat meat from a corpse, or sometimes actively hunt, if given they're more of an opportunistic species.
Mm-hmm.
Moles certainly eat bugs in real life. And I could go down the line here, because even European badgers, oh no, they would kill hares and eat them. So I could go down the line and point out how almost every species, except maybe squirrels, if they're not outright predators, they're certainly opportunistic omnivores. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. But when we're dealing with an anthropomorphic literature series that has predator and not predator species, it's almost not bred up. This book, no. Brian was definitely in a Quentin Tarantino mode. So, that being said, yes, Gulo and his vermin ate the missing ones.
Yep.
And ate fast, apparently.
Yep. And
but before we get to that point, I do want to point out the Doogie and Tam are like, look, we did swear you our swords, and we do honor our vows, but I don't see why we should. You don't care about your own people. And Tam is the more honor bound here than Doogie. Tam's just basically said, I swore you my sword, but I want you to release me if I return your stupid banner.
Yeah, I really like, there's a part, where Tam is, he came back from looking at the corpses of all his friends, like the remains of all his friends, and the king is like, did you find the banner? And then Tam just like slams him up against a tree. Mm-hmm. And the way the audiobook actor does that, you can hear like the way his voice at the end of the quote goes up, like it sounds like he's been slammed into something. It's very cool.
Nice. Oh yeah, it's so good.
But yes, it takes some cajoling because the king doesn't want to let go of the vow. He's like, no, you swore your vow to me. You're going to do what I say.
And immediately is like, yeah, go ahead, go for it. Get it. We'll release you.
Honey.
And then the queen just like, you're so terrible. This is upsetting me so much more than everybody being dead and eaten and stuff.
I do like how they make her like pass out at the end. Because they're like, by the way, if you want to see what's left, there's all these half-devoured bodies with heads everywhere, and thump.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe you should bury them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that,
we definitely get to see Tam's sense of honor here, where he despises Arltum and obviously would love to just be like, all right, I'm going to throw you. Here's my strategy for taking care of Wolverine. I'll throw you at him and then grab the banner while he's busy devouring you.
hey.
Still feel bound to the oath he made. And
Yeah.
obviously Doogie less so, because he's like, all right, Tam, if you won't kill him, I'll totally do it. But he also respects Tam enough to abide by his decision. And I like that.
So yeah, we have our two, and they have a quest to get back the banner. And, avenge their fallen friends who died at a grisly death and were violently defiled by being eaten.
Yes.
But our next chapter begins with a sea otter. Hey, we haven't seen one of these guys for a while. And it's a very short chapter. Again, a short chapter, only 3 pages. And basically, he's just on his own. He's swimming on his own because his parents got a new kid, and they just like, fine, we don't want to deal with this. We got to worry about your sister.
I want a whole book on the little sister. She sounds so much fun.
And it starts like, oh, this is so much fun. I'm a sea otter and I'm singing as I swim. And why do I hear hares?
Well, then he sees some hares just happily walking along and beating a drum. And oh God, it's a massacre!
Yep.
Just good Lord.
And he realized what's happening. He realized where those hares are from, and heads in that direction. And Gulo
specifically says he's going to Salamandastron, which, you know what? Good on him. Like he was taught well. Like, hey, if you see something bad happen, go to Salamandastron.
Yep.
And Gulo has probably made the first mistake since he got on shore. I'm not saying attacking the squirrel Pine Grove was a great idea, but you've just poked the one enemy who will come for you.
Yes.
He's lucky that Krega isn't in charge of Salamandastron or Ron Blade, because they would leave the mountain and hunt him down. And, well, Krega would throw her weapon away and start strangling him, but Ron Blade would definitely try to cleave him right in half.
Or Earthstripe.
Or Earthstripe.
Or Brocktree.
Yep.
Well, I'm thinking of ones that specifically left Salamandastron.
Yeah.
To go get revenge.
Brocktree was more like, hey, Undead, is that a thing outside? Well, yes, it is. I'm going to go take a look at it. Hey!
Hey, Undead, want a hug? All right, that doesn't sound...
And now, I just have to say, the song that was sung, the song that was sung in the audiobook, it was a little hard to understand because, once again, the British cannot properly pronounce the letter R to save their lives.
Well, yes.
It's just like...
Are you sure?
It's like, your tongue is too lazy on the side. Enunciate.
And it's not... Well, I mean, they would probably say us American types don't know how to use the language properly, but... That's another story.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So we're back to the Abbey, and because we can't have an adventure in winter, of course it's back to spring.
Yep. And does this chapter art make Formal look like the Statue of Liberty, or would that be the Statue of Mulberty?
Bring me Tired and.
I'm more thinking of like the Redeemer Jesus in Rio, based on that pose.
Jesus wants a hug. What I do like in the beginning of this chapter is the little gardening lesson, and it's a nice way to show how the Redwallers work to always have like food on hand. That they're not gluttons. They're not just like tearing through their food stocks. Like they plant stuff, they stagger their planting so they can make sure they have food at different times.
Yeah, this was cool.
Yeah, we get a little bit of insight into just how everything works, which is always good world building. It makes the world feel more real.
Yep.
I mean, this is where I was going into earlier, where I'm like, this seems like a soft reboot at some points. So, but yes, we have Redwallers just like, oh, they're being fun, and because we have Dibbins running around and
Mimsy and Mudge.
Yeah.
And I do love the little comment, though, where Mimsy and Mudge come to get them, and they're like, don't you know? And I love the little reply, Us'n's only got little brains.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned it. I've mentioned this on air again before, but when you buy Kindle books, you can highlight things for notes for fun or important passages you think yourself or other readers will find funny or critical. My goodness, sorry, Dimser, but I suspect us forgot to remember that. Us little got little brains, so us forgets all kinds of things. Is it been highlighted by 45 members of the community.
Aw.
Smart people.
Yep. But I feel sometimes like the mole babes are a little bit more aware of what's going on than they let on. They use their youth as an excuse to just get away with doing whatever because, hey, I'm young, I don't care.
Well, as a reminder, it was a mole babe in that crew. Was it all the way back in Mario where they borrowed kitchen knives and cut vermin lines?
Yeah.
Yes.
Jeez.
Bag running grub.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, and then we also get a good moment is when they bring up Jem and Walt, where Jem's like, "We ain't learned as you Abbey beasts." Yeah, that sentence proves it. Oh, and we find out that they're preparing for like a little mole celebration, and Jem goes down to the cellars where all the moles are drinking and sharing stories, and they have old George, who I can't help but read his dialogue in like the wacky old codger voice and think of like Grandpa Simpson. Back in my day, we moles.
So
This
yes,
is so silly and fun. I love
the
it.
Spring
Our
Festival apparently
cheaper
celebrates
never
moles.
pies had dirt in them, and we liked it.
The Spring Festival apparently celebrates Formal and his crew's contributions to the Abbey, and
I
that's
really
really
like
good.
that.
Yeah, that's nice because, I mean, Skipper and the Mossflower Holt come and go, but they certainly help out when requested. But Formal and his moles, they've always lived at the Abbey.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And they mentioned honey moles.
Yep. Those are good. I want to make those again.
There be moles here. Yep. And I love at the end of the chapter where it's like, happy things were happening at Redwall while murder was happening everywhere else.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to point out, is this where they were first like, hey, shouldn't we do something with that riddle that we found out about in winter?
Yeah.
After the party. Yeah.
We'll get to it. It's been a season.
They've already forgotten it. They're like, oh, right, Sister Screeve wrote that down. We should probably go take a look at it.
Yes.
Well,
But meanwhile, we get a very comedic routine of between Abbott, Humble, and Formal, who they go back and they just love. They're doing this song and dance with each other, essentially.
And there's audience participation.
Abbott and Molestello.
Yes.
Ah, nice.
Hey, Abbott!
I just want to rewind for a second, though, because the Abbot's like, well, Jem, do you want to help us work on the puzzle? Sure. When do we do it? Well, not today. We'll do it tomorrow because tonight's the big mole feast. He's like, cool, I'll go tell Jem. So he goes down and, they find all the old moles in the cellar, basically just drinking and telling as many tall tales as possible. And it's like, Brian, you sure do love your tall tales.
Yes.
But
I sure do love having people get drunk in the cellars.
Yep. And I
Hold
love,
that thought.
because as Jeremy pointed out, old George, and he's like, now this were my Gert Granfur's Gert Granfur. Hims were named Burby Long Season. They shed Burby could fawn barrel of tober ale at breakfast and drink him way out afore supper.
And by the way, we're told later, this is a bit of a spoiler for a future chapter, that they go through an entire keg of October Ale during this party. So yes, the adults are very drunk.
I also
They're not
love
as
how-
stink as you drunk they are.
I love how that mole wife of when Jem comes in to talk to Walt, the mole wife says, "Oh, don't worry about interrupting us. A hedgehog is only a mole with a spiky head."
Yeah. Oh, God.
But back to the murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in chapter 8, it kicks off with, it's the cute little Ermine. They're such adorable bloodthirsty killers. Who's a cute little killer? Yes, you are. Yes, you
These
Well,
are.
I mean-
Ermine are definitely not cute. They're definitely threatening looking, and they're wearing cutlasses. And they see Tam and Doogie coming to burn their ship. But they don't know that that's what they're
Yeah.
like. Hey, these guys live on the coast. They must know something about shipbuilding because I don't know why Gulo gave us duty. We don't know anything. So we'll
Yeah.
make them do it. Oh, hi guys. So we're gonna threaten you, and you're gonna rebuild our ship. Ow! Why is that hurting?
Yeah.
Typical vermin, overblown eagles and underblown brains.
Yes.
So yes, they're like, so basically Tam and Doogie's just straight up. They're like, hey, they called us bumpkins. We're gonna have to repay the manners. Hurt, blah.
Yeah, I gotta describe this as less of a fight and more of a, hi, you're dead moment.
Yes.
Wait, what?
I
I'm
mean-
dead? Where's my
No.
head?
My adorable dead Ermine, you're on fire now.
Oh, I mean, are we sure they're dead? Because they stacked their bodies in the broken ship and light it on fire. Hey, Tam, what's that sound? I don't know. It kind of sounds like a screaming. I'm sure. I'm sure it's not important.
At least they're not on fire. Oh, wait.
Oh, wait. I'm on fire. Yeah.
No, they're dead before they burn, but it'd be funny to watch.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a thought. Is Shard Vermin HR for Gulo?
I think so.
Yeah,
Hmm.
he's certainly the power behind the throne. But
He has a shard of good sense. And
so yes, they burn Gulo's ship, and I'm sure I'm sure Gulo has insurance on that.
oh yeah. So Doogie and Tam have fun banter with them, and they get to join a wonderful club that includes almost every single protagonist in Redwall history. They're beaten into unconsciousness.
Yep.
They
We
receive
find
so
out
much
who did
brain
it.
damage.
And when we find out who did it, it's just like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
They heard it was fun to knock out protagonists, and they're like, "Hey, let's give it a shot."
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
go ahead.
For what it's worth, too, there's a song that Doogie sings Tam. It's actually really good in the audiobook.
It's amazing.
It's hilarious.
I have a confession. Sometimes I just skip the song reading.
I think I read his. I think I skipped like the ones after it.
I probably shouldn't, but I know. I'm
Yeah,
bad.
it's also there aren't. I will say there are a lot fewer songs in this book than there were in the last couple. Like it
Oh,
feels
in
like
Loam Hedge, there were so many, like
My
so
God.
many.
yeah, this one it feels like there's less, which I like. I mean, like every once in a while they're fine, but yeah, as you said, like with Loam Hedge, I mean, one of the complaints we had near the end was some of the stuff felt rushed, but they had to take the time for like a page and a half of songs.
Mm-hmm.
So, meanwhile, in the next chapter, we meet the most dangerous character in the book. Forget Gulo, Drifttail. He's going to be the most threatening. Oh, he's captured.
Yep.
Before we get into that, chapter 9 artwork shows us Gulo for the first time, and wow.
Yeah.
He's scary.
We're basically it's a Wolverine. It's black and white, but it's definitely a Wolverine, and he's got a clasp of what looks like three Wolverines heads and a silver clasp over his cloak. So, and yeah, I can see Gulo is kind of. He's not. But let's make an important point. He's definitely in the same territory, but I can. When people say he's not smart, that might be right based on what we're seeing. So our first introduction is Drifttail and his gang of 8, the quote river rats, and they see a random white fox who's totally going to be easy prey. Hey, where did all those guys come from?
Yeah.
I mean, we finally found a gang that rivals Bad Red's crew for sheer stupidity. I almost feel a tiny amount of mild pity for them.
At least Bad Red had the sense to leave.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Well, eventually.
Yes.
His crew had more of a sense to leave before he did.
Yeah. But they ambush a scout fox, steal his food, and they're immediately surrounded by Gulo and his crew.
And that Scout Fox they're like, who are you? Like, where'd you come from? He's like, I serve Gulo the Savage. Like, oh, where's Gulo the Savage? And like, where is he?
Right there.
Behind you.
And here's Gulo. Is he terrifying? Yes. Is he going to get more terrifying? Yes. Is he absolutely insane? Did Sarmina drown herself?
Yeah.
He will become. Again, I didn't want to spoil things, but according to Red Wolf Wiki, he becomes insane at some point. So he may already be that point, but it's not as obvious. And Gulo just walks right down to this group of river rats, followed by his 2 captains and 4 guards. And the river rats are like, oh crap.
Yep. And we found out he's got a new banner. He's got a new drum. I wonder what other items he's going to find.
Yes.
And there's some good bits here, like where he terrifies the living heck out of every member of Drifttail's group. And I like the little note where they're cooking their food. They're cooking, like we've noted that vermin like to cook birds and stuff. They normally pluck the feathers off. No, they're burning them with the feathers on. And there's a comment where it says, the rank stench of burning feathers. My nose actually twitched when I read that.
Delicious.
Yeah. And Gulo asks Drifttail, like, did you see another one like me? And he's like, no! I've never seen anything like you. And Gulo doesn't believe him. He's like, where did Asgore go? Who? He went that way. Those who lie are bound to die.
Oh,
In
I
the
guess
audiobook,
Gulo is a
his
poet.
voice kind of quivers, and it's just like, those who lie are bound to die.
Yep.
He then decapitates Drifttail.
Not yet.
Oh wait, he doesn't do it. Doesn't he do it like right after Drifttail lies
No.
for the
I
5th
don't
time
think
or
so.
something? Because then he grabs like one of his, or he at least kills him, and then like grabs another one. Like, take that one. I'll ask him the same question, and he'll probably not know, and then I'll kill him too. And that's when Shard pipes up and is like, "Hey, before you mass murder all these stupid rats, maybe I can find out what they actually do know." And Gulo's like, well, if they haven't seen them, then what use are they to me? They might know the land. They might not. They might know where Asgore might take it.
Good point.
Yeah. All right.
And besides, sir, just pointing this out, the stench of urine from when you hold these guys up is really getting to us.
All these guys should have worn their yellow pants.
Or brown.
You said urine, so urine is yellow.
I know. But
brown for the dead ones.
but yes, they basically Gulo's like, fine. And this is where we're getting into what Gulo isn't exactly the most intelligent one. We're going to see more of this as the book comes on, but as I said, he doesn't really come up with a lot of this on his own. He relies on his captains to his credit. He does listen to his captains and hear them out. And if he doesn't like the plan, he's not going to do it.
Yep.
But he's not exactly creative.
Yeah, and I do like Shard's comment to him though, like, give me one night, like, it doesn't hurt to try, and if it doesn't work, then you can kill him.
Oh, goody.
Now, I have a question for
M
Pete.
is for murder. That good enough for me.
Oh, no. I have a question for Pete.
Yes.
You've heard this several times. Just on the outside chance you didn't get this spoiled for yourself accidentally, what do you think the Walking Stone is? Do you have any theories?
Well, it's clearly not the size of an apple, because that's what Drifttail kind of says and gets murdered for it. But if we're talking about some sort of symbol of authority, that's a really good question. frankly, I was trying to work out for myself before we went on air what this could be, and I genuinely don't know, and I'm not going to spoil it for myself.
I think
Yeah,
it's a
you're
new
gonna be
TV show
surprised.
on AMC, The Walking Stone.
Oh no.
Oh, and Shard's just like, so yeah, I questioned those rats, and they talked about a pair of travelers that went by trailing a cart, and that cart probably had your brother, based on what we said. So they were heading to a place called Redwall. That's a dumb name. Yeah, I know, right?
And here we go again on the Redwall has treasure train to Crazy Pants Town.
Yes.
You know, they also mentioned this mountain about hares and how the badgers who roll of it are kind of vengeful. I'm sure it's not important.
Yeah.
No.
I do like the little bits here with Shard where it mentions Shard always makes sure to sit just outside of Gulo's reach.
Yes,
Mhm.
this was always wise.
Yep.
He's seen how minions can be treated, clearly. Yep. So,
and I also like the comment that he makes where Gulo asks, like, "What? Are you sure he's not lying?" And Shard just replies, "He loves life too much to refuse."
Yes.
Mhm.
That was a great line.
Yeah, I do question like how no one ever said, "Hey, how does a hedgehog and a mole pull a wolverine on a cart?"
Very carefully.
Yeah.
I mean, just the sheer weight. We're told that badgers, who are smaller or roughly the same size, it took 20 of them to lift what's his face from one of the books 2 ago. The guy with the scar on his face. I don't know. I'm blanking.
Lana.
Oh,
Lana?
the arrow guy.
Yeah,
Um,
Lana Bowstripe.
not
It took
that-
20 otters to pick him up. Yeah, I don't think a hedgehog and a mole can carry a freaking Wolverine.
The only hedgehog I could think of that could do that is the one from oh God, which was it Mariel?
Solar Tree?
Marl, yeah, from Marl
Oh.
Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was gigantic.
Yeah.
He's the only one I can think of that could do that.
Maybe
So-
Shard doesn't actually think that Asgore was in the cart, but maybe he's just saying that to Gulo to be like, hey, maybe we should check out Redwall, and these are the reasons why. But he doesn't really have to logic it out because Gulo's not much for logic, so.
Yeah,
This is
he
true.
all he has to do is say, "Hey, this could possibly be where your brother is. Where is my brother? I will get vengeance."
Where are they?
I
Hey,
will
Gulo,
find him!
gonna go eat some red wallers? Do I?
It's Tuesday. So, but yeah, sweet. Chapter 10 begins with clearly an extinct volcanic mountain with the ships itself in a strong. Yeah, obviously. And,
It is? Oh my God!
Spoilers.
oh, and yeah, the hares knocked out these Scottish squirrels.
Oops.
Come on, guys.
And a couple of the at least one of them is dumb enough to think like, you ate us, our hair friends, and Tam's like, the heck are you talking about? What? And so yeah, they take them.
They're tied up and they're like, hey, let us go. That was rude. Yeah, sorry about that, but we're not going to do it until our badger lady can see you.
Yep. And I like Melesme as she shows up and she's like, let them go. Like, why are you doing this?
You can imagine she face palmed at one point, like, ugh.
Yeah.
Damn,
It's
we
like-
found the ones that massacred the hares and ate them. Really? Is it a giant monster? It's 2 squirrels. Just me slapping my forehead just for
Yeah.
I mean,
I can see Melesme being like, how did you manage to make that mistake? And having one of them say, actually, it was super easy, hardly an inconvenience.
Ding.
at that point, she's just like, you, sir, to the brig for your
You're on dish cleaning duty now.
Our badger lady Melesme is not Krega. That is clear. She's measured. She's quiet. She knows how to delegate instead of taking personal charge of every problem.
Instead of leaving the mountain with 500 hares.
Yes.
And she literally meets these 2 squirrels not in grand armor with hefting a weapon, but in her forge apron. which clearly means that they're either very close to Salamandastron within 2 leagues, or that's good for traveling too. But yeah, she's just like, will you just let them go? What is wrong with you?
And then when she asked them, like, where did you come from? And Tam's like, yeah, we were in the service of King Dingus and Queen Doofus. And she's like, oh, those two overblown little idiots.
I actually like this element because it's clear from Melissa's words and tone, as Brian implies, she's just like, yeah, she doesn't really care that they took up residence in her grove, and that's how she says it, because she's the Badger Lady of Salamandastron. She's like, so long as they're non-harmful, she doesn't care that they're living there. Yeah. But it's clear that if she wanted to evict them, she would.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I can imagine, our royal comes back and there's a pink slip on one of the trees, eviction notice.
Yeah.
You have 1 season to vacate.
And please pay your back taxes.
Will throw you out, literally.
Yeah, make sure to pay your back taxes of 30,000 candy chestnuts.
They're not getting their deposit back.
But yeah, and Melissa's listening. She's just like, yeah, we lost 8 hares to this Wolverine and his crew. So you estimate there's 100? Well, I'm going to send 100 with you to go hunt them down. And I'm sitting here like, okay, if the Wolverine is this dangerous, send 200.
Yeah. I do like, though, how she takes the news of Gulo in stride. Like, she doesn't show any, like, that's horrible, we need to, she's not hot-headed like any of a lot of our previous Badger Lords have been. Like, they tell her of what happened, and she's like, that's disturbing. All right, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Everything that Krega was with her temper and impulsiveness, Melissa is not.
Yeah, she's definitely more of like a Sunflash, or like in terms of like mood. Obviously, Sunflash was not much of a strategist, but
she's sort of like Rossano.
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree.
With it, just a hint of bore minus the hey, I want to go and fight and slay everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it is pointed out she is older, so I mean, she probably had a fair bit of vermin slaying under her belt, but it's one of those where it's like, I'm old now, I'm retired from actually going out in the field, but, I'm still going to do things here at the mountain because I'm a badger.
Yes.
Yeah. She's delegating, which is the intelligent thing to do. But don't take that for that she's not capable of doing things herself, because she also gives orders to the hares she's delegated to murder all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. And I like how she just to show the difference between the leaders, the Skrull dinguses are like, oh, the banner, we gotta get the banner back. Blah, 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 blah. She's like, look, we lost the drum and that stinks. Like, we will definitely need to get that back because that was meant for Redwall. But I'm more pissed off because they killed just 8. Just 8. Meanwhile, with the Squirrels, like, what was it? Like almost 100 were murdered or something.
It was
30.
30, yeah.
It was a larger amount, but she's like, look, they took out 8 of our hares and like defiled their dead corpses by eating them. We're gonna hunt this monster down and turn him into a pincushion.
Right.
Yep. And score settling with Gulo has become a higher stakes game, and I love it.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, if Gulo has 100 and she knows that, she'd be said, "Oh, I'll send 200."
Well, also, the only reason I could think of her only sending 100 is maybe they're not at full staff right now. Like,
entirely possible.
Yeah. At least she's not doing what Krega did and send out almost the entire regiment.
Half,
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I do like the hares that we meet. I especially like One Will, because I love his line saying that he's a boxing hare, and he goes, "I'm called One Will. If in me right don't get ya, then me left one will."
Yes.
Yes.
Props to Mark Jakes, who does this very well.
And it's like, Sergeant One Will is one of my favorite hares in the entire series, period. In fact, I think this book has most of my favorite hares.
Oh, the Brigadier is awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, the Brigadier too. I mean, even Ferdinand, who we meet here, who's like really hot-headed and is just like, yeah, you jolly cads, vermin, hair eaters. And it's like, no, he gets better.
Yes, eventually he gets better.
Yeah,
But yeah, yeah. Just I just want to commend all the voice actors here. Like Beth Cassidy, who plays Lady Melaesme. She plays most of the Badgers, female Badgers. I would say maybe 90% of the female Badgers are played by her. She played Constance and Craiga, and she just has a great Badger voice.
It's very like deep and like all-encompassing, and it's just like it can go anywhere from being I want to get out of here right now to please wrap me up in a warm blanket, mommy.
Yeah.
And I like this because we find, it's been a while since we've gotten a good look at the military life at Salamandastron and seen some good Long Patrol hairs. And Tam and Doogie just like fit in perfectly.
Yep.
Like they fall in at the beginning of chapter 11 when they meet Brigadier Buckworthy Crumshaw, which he's awesome.
Yes.
Where he looks them over, and how they arrive late, and he looks them over and goes, "You at least look like warriors. Have you seen a lot of action?" And both of them immediately throw out like good, more comical responses, but also sounding very serious. Where they're like, "Aye, we fought to get porridge in the breakfast line and wounded several cooks, sir. And both our blades can peel onions, though we never shed a tear about it, sir." I love that.
It's so good.
I know you had mentioned that, like, you guys had mentioned it was kind of like Mossflower. Like, there's a lot of feeling of Mossflower. This whole section reminds me a lot of the Long Patrol.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Where Craiga's forces are on the move. And especially the poem, like the marching poem or song that they give, where the farewell, dear mother, that whole thing. I have no idea if that was the same one we got from the Hares in the Long Patrol when they started on their journey, but it really reminds me of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's in the same vein, but yeah, it was different. I think the only repeat song is the Long Patrol anthem, which was in Marielle Redwall and the Long Patrol.
Oh, okay.
The one thing that I really liked is, this book really blends together elements of like Mossflower, the Long Patrol, a lot of like the really good, memorable Redwall books, and it's basically a hybrid, and it blends all those elements together almost seamlessly. Where it's just like you just accept the fact that the Hares have beef with Gulo, so they're out to get him too.
Yep. Yeah, and I like the fact that it blends together well. Like, it doesn't feel like he's just kind of revisiting Redwall's greatest hits. Like, it feels new, but it feels familiar and in a good way at the same time.
Yes, unlike Legend of Luke, which is just like, oh, we've seen this in Mossflower. Oh, this was also in Mossflower.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, Lady Melaesme does say, but it's like she, like I said, she came off as very level-headed, but she does have her command, which is find the vermin who murdered our young hares, take no prisoners.
Yep.
And we have we get a few more names. The most unfortunately named hare, Flunkworthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel bad for him.
Folderon, Flumity, and Flunkworthy, as Doogie calls them, the awkward squad. And it's like, yep.
Yep. And then we get a pair of gallopers, which, again, like, it's a familiar Salamandastron Long Patrol thing that we haven't seen in a while.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't gotten, like, the military hares for a little bit, and God, it's so nice to see them again.
And they're twin siblings.
Yep.
They, like, finish each other's sentences.
Yep. And they mention what happened to Drifttail's bunch. Ew. Where they said, how'd you know it was him? We found his blinking head, sir.
Oh, well, no tears cried over bad vermin.
Nope. I do like it too. After they give the report, immediately they realize Crumshaw figures out, like, oh shoot, they're running towards the Abbey. Break camp, get on the move. Let's try and, light fires. Let's make as much noise as possible. Try and get them to turn the other way.
Mm.
Like, shows that they are a brave and perilous lot. Like, they go, okay, Redwall might be in trouble. They don't have warriors. There's now just over 100 of us. Let's make some noise. Let's draw them over here and let's take these guys down.
Mm-hmm.
Did we mention that, the Doogie and the Hare have a boxing match?
Not yet. We haven't gotten to that point
Oh,
yet.
sorry.
We're right
I-
before that.
Spoilers.
So,
I
spoilers for 2 seconds from now.
I
They
also
are
want to point out.
antagonizing each other.
Go ahead, Katie.
I was just going to say they are antagonizing each other, and I just like to point out that Birdie, transphobia is not cool. Do not call the kilt a skirt and mock a man for wearing it. Not cool. Bad.
I would have to question, how did Ferdinand become a captain? Isn't he
Is
a
he
captain? Like,
I don't think
I-
he's a captain.
I swear they said he was a cap. Let me take a look. I swear they said in chapter, whatchamacallit, 10, that he was a captain.
Hang on, Redwall Wiki.
Well, I'm just looking at the the chapter here. Hang on.
No, he's not called a captain on the Redwall Wiki, for what it's worth.
All right. Well, you guys keep going. I'm just going to do another read through because I swear he was an actual officer.
I want to point out something from the beginning of chapter 11, when Tam and Doogie are woken up for going to meet at the parade ground. They meet Corporal Buddy Wopscott, who's in charge of the food and supplies and whatnot, and he says, "Morning, chaps. What? Name's Wopscott, Corporal Buddy Wopscott, in charge of the jolly old supplies and provisions. Tuck, don't you know? Victuals for the use of."
He's
To
the
which
quartermaster.
Yeah, Doogie replies, "Well, thanks to you. Victuals for the use of what? For the use of eating, of course. That's the way we work around here, what?" And it's just like, that is so perfect.
Oh, wait, isn't Buddy also a recycled name? Or is it spelled differently?
Well, I mean, Buddy Wopscott versus Friar Buddy.
Yes.
So, where the first name versus last name.
Okay, I figured out where I got off. They do call him an officer, because at one point One Will does tell him to act like an officer, but I got thrown off because there's a Captain Darren Fortendum.
Oh,
Yes.
yep.
So the name is very similar, but so they do say that they do tell him to act like an officer. So
I think that just means if you want to be an officer, you should act like one.
Gotcha. Okay, now I see where I got thrown off. It's Fortendum,
Fortendum, Ferdinand, you know.
Ferdinand, very similar names.
Folder on Fiddle-dee-dee.
Yeah, fiddlesticks.
I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts.
No, don't get us copyright.
There the hairs are standing in a row.
Bum, bum, bum. Okay, we're done.
Yes, as we said, the Long Patrol is like, oh crap, Redwall's threatened again. Yeah.
They always are. So Doogie and Ferdinand have been antagonizing each other and finally getting each other's faces ready to draw swords. And I love the comment where I think it was One Will or the Brigadier is like, "Look, I can't have you two fighting to the death, because if one of you kills the other, I got to execute the living one just because you murdered a fellow officer, okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to draw a line, put your weapons down. You're just going to beat each other senseless."
Sounds good.
And they're both
Let's
like,
do it.
"I'm good with that."
Yep. And they start beating the hell out of each other and eventually hit the point where they both can barely stand, which at one point they both fall over and they're picked up and like, no, keep going.
Yeah.
You
And
wanted to fight? You are going to fight.
yep. And they get to the end of it and they're like, all right, are you guys done? And Ferdinand's like, I'm done. If the 5 of him that I see now are done. And Doogie tries winking, but both his eyes are too swollen. And he's like, I'm done. He's done. Like, all right, you're both done. Thump.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
I'm not okay. And now they're friends.
Do we have brain damage? No, but you're still doing better than the last squirrel and hair pair we sent off.
Oh.
Which was that? I'm
Late
blank.
Scott and Juka.
Oh,
They
right.
make up a lot faster.
Yeah.
Those two do.
Yep.
But yes,
Oh.
they're friends now. It's happy. Oh, and Redwall, everyone is hungover.
What
Yep.
is the malted liquor? What gets Rollers drunker quicker? What comes in barrels and tankards? October Ale!
Yeah, like I said, this is where we're told, hey, the moles in our creatures finished off a barrel of October Ale.
Yep.
Everyone was drunk last night. So yeah, I'm assuming this is the full October Ale, not the cookbook's version, which was just sugar syrup.
Yeah.
I'm not as drink as you think I drink am. What seems to be the officer problem?
Everyone celebrate the moles! Yay!
I'm gonna celebrate the moles drinking all the October Ale. That's the hedgehog's favorite drink. You shut up.
And yeah, so basically, not everyone clearly was that drunk, but we're even told at one point, Sister Armel's just like, oh yeah, I'm kind of busy this morning. There's still a few abed after last evening's festivities.
So many.
I'll give him a call. Wake up time!
Ring the bells and everyone's like, oh God, my head.
Now, we get to meet a little bit more of Burlop and his relationship with Humble as his protege and all that jazz. And it's like, Burlop is the kind of guy I aspire to be. He's dutiful and loyal to his craft. And now I know that sounds weird for a guy who puts library books away, but I take my job as seriously as Burlop does.
Of course.
Just want to do a good job. Want to make my boss happy, the person I look up to.
And we get to meet Brookflow, who is channeling Han Rosie's laughing habit.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I'm annoyed by her or not. We will see.
I like her.
I was on the fence with her, but then I grew to like her in a upcoming chapter.
I was going to say her puns are equally as terrible as you guys is. So
I would argue they're
I
worse
get the feeling in the
because
afterlife, Goff and Martin like, hey, let's go get a meal. Yeah, we'll just leave the phone there. And there's Han Rosie. Hee.
My time has come. Tarquin's like, okay, now send them these riddles. And Pablo comes. I like to think this was a group effort.
But some of her stuff that she laughs at, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not sure I would laugh at that. And I laugh at some pretty stupid stuff.
Yeah, like where they go, where do we start with all this jumble? At the beginning, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like, we're unriddling the puzzle, or is that unpuddling the rizzle? And it's like, that's not funny.
A shizzle.
Now that is funny.
Well, I think she's probably 15 or 16.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes teenagers just get super silly and laugh at stupid stuff.
Like, honestly, I think after Scarum, I have a much more higher tolerance for some of this stuff, so...
It also helps that we don't have any hair that even barely resembles a cloudy reflection of Scarum.
Yeah, that's why I don't have a problem with Ferdimon, where I'm like, okay, he's just like a little, rowdy and stuff, like kind of like some of the Salamander strong hairs we saw in the Long Patrol, like, oh God, what was his name? The one that kept getting in trouble.
Trowbags.
Trowbags, yeah. Like, kind of like that, he's just needs like a little more combat experience and stuff. So yeah, they all together and they read Ascor's poem, and I'm like, okay, so we're to believe that Ascor came with this clever poem with hints about Ivy, not Wild Ivy.
Wild Ivy.
And like his like little comment of, where little leaves slay big leaves, where wood meets earth, I stop. Like, I'm sorry, I think Gonf channeled some cleverness through Ascor as a joke.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and then Martin, who is feeling completely left out because he hasn't provided a riddle.
Oops. I pushed
Yep.
the button. I don't know what happened.
Hmm?
Oh, I think I sent you guys a heart.
No worries.
In the Skype. I was like, wait, what am I doing? Sorry.
All right.
I didn't see it come through. Anyway,
Yep.
Okay.
So
Cut
yeah,
that out.
they all kind of figure out Asgore's poem of like, oh, it's by some basically it's there's a tree near the lake that's covered in ivy where he hid this thing. And so Martin, feeling a little left out, like, all right, you guys may have gotten this poem, but I'm gonna send you a riddle telling you who's gonna go figure this stuff out.
Yes.
And yeah, he visits Armel in a dream, and he says, basically tells her like, look, you and that laughing one over there, because Rosie keeps telling me she's funny. You're gonna take my sword and head southwest, and there's this dude who has sold and lost his sword. You give my sword to him, and
it's
goodbye.
a timeshare.
Yeah.
It's a timeshare for weapons.
Yeah. The sword will end up right back where it started by the end of the story or in the next book. And yeah, so she wakes up, immediately forgets it, much like many people that Martin visits. This is kind of like a running thing where Martin will tell somebody very important and they immediately forget it when they wake up and then just happen to remember it at the perfect moment.
Yes.
This happens a lot. Like, Martin, you got to work on like the actual imprinting part of this onto people's memories.
I would,
And so-
but I don't have enough credits on the long distance line.
Oh, I was just gonna say
Rose
he does
cut
it for
me off.
dramatic effect.
Well, there's part of that too. There's definitely a dramaticism here.
Yeah. And so they all are like, okay, we figured this stuff out. Let's all go back inside. And all of a sudden, when Armel looks up at Martin the Warrior's tapestry, he goes, oh my God, wait, Brookie, come here.
Yeah.
And it's like only at Redwall can they solve an obscure riddle almost completely in a single chapter. And it's like
Yeah.
most other books, it would take several chapters of like, stopping, taking a break, mulling it over, coming back, putting some stuff up on the brainstorm board. It's like
Finding
no,
a dead
here.
bee.
No.
Finding
is all-
18 pieces of paper that say some weird unintelligible thing and then find out that it's just like a really simple and stupid answer.
Breaking open a candle. Oh wait, that's the wrong series. My bad.
Knowing
Well, I mean,
you're knowing your
unless-
theology references and with an immortal boy and a creepy and his talkative Labrador. Yeah.
And yeah, this one was like a good group effort, though. I did like how they all kind of worked together to figure out the poem. That this brilliant, apparently Asgore came up with this all on his own. Yeah, right. I don't believe it. I think Jem came up with this on his own. Like, Asgore was more like, it's near tree with little thing crawling around it, bottom, water. And he's like, all right, this won't work. I need to touch it up a little bit. Use that artistic license right there. And so we move on to the next chapter where I think this might just be my copy. I've been noticing a couple of the pages in this book, the text is like a little bit lighter than the rest. And immediately at the beginning of page 13, like a couple of words are completely smudged out.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, so like it says Euphis light paw, and then it's just smudge a water vole. So I'm assuming was is the word that's supposed to be there.
Yes.
So I don't know if it was just like my copy or because I doubt I could have done this because just looking at the side of this book and reading it now, I have not read this that many times.
Huh.
Nothing
Yeah.
against the quality of the book. I just have not read it as much as some of my older ones.
You're reading the Ace Fantasy paperback edition, right?
Correct.
Because I have in the exact same place, the word was is like 60% obscured, but it is not obscured in my first edition hardback.
Okay. So
Weird.
this was Then most likely, because I'm pretty sure I bought this like right when it first became available, so maybe the first print run had some issues.
Yeah, the first print of the paperback. Yeah, wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me.
Actually, there's an error on the front of the book too. It shows Rakkety Tam holding Martin's sword, and the top of the sword that's past Gulow's hair is not drawn in. It's just a blank white outline.
Mine is the exact same way.
Okay.
But if I look at my hardcover copy, it is properly colored in. So
Okay.
somebody made an oopsie, and you and I probably have the same edition paperback.
Yep.
You've got the oopsie edition.
Yep.
Speaking of editions, I just want to briefly point out in the very front, I have on my hardcover copy a receipt from when I bought it from Borders. When I bought this on the 3rd of September 2005.
Wow.
Considering it came out in 04? Dang.
Wow. That's like how I still have a receipt from Circuit City for like a Sonic the Hedgehog soundtrack that I bought from there.
I keep most of my book receipts inside the book that I bought them with because they make great bookmarks. And it's a great way to say, hey, where did I get this? Oh, let me just check my bookmark.
Oh, nice.
This is actually true. I have a couple of old Game Crazy receipts in strategy guides that I purchased from there.
I never, ever, ever save receipts or even take them if they're offered. Because I'm just like, it'll just be another random piece of paper that I have no idea what it is. Don't need another one of those in my life.
And so, yeah, in chapter 13, we meet Euphis Lightpaw.
Yep.
Really? Euphis?
Euphis.
All right. And he's basically the store brand of Gonf. He's like he's like the toasted oat O's to Gonf's Cheerios.
Yes, although I will say I quite like his significant other who we meet in later books.
Digity?
Yes.
Digity.
Yes. Despite her name, she's cool.
She's awesome.
All right.
And
I'll take your word for it.
As far as Euphis basically being Gonf 2.0, I think he does the job well enough.
It's more Gonf 1.5. I'm just gonna.
Well, as we've said on the show, Gonf 2.0 was Gonflet.
I get it.
No, that's what his son was called. That's not a joke.
I know. I get why you're saying he's Gonf 2.0.
Okay.
No, that would be Gonf Light, not Gonflet.
Oh boy. So we have a vole thief. Yeah. I don't know. He's a vole. What do we think of voles?
Well, he's a water vole.
Oh.
I love
water vole. Water vole he is.
He's an independent who is mostly just out for himself, frankly. He may know of Redwall. It's clearly he's not part of the Abbey group. And right now, we first meet him when he's tracking essentially bird nests to steal eggs from. Okay, fine. But apparently Gulow's crew got there first, and they shoot down any bird they find.
Aww.
And that's what draws his interest.
Yep. He follows the hunters then back to Gulow's group and goes, "Ooh, they have shinies. I like shiny things. I steal shiny things." That's, pretty accurate.
In effect, he's a lot more quiet than that, but yes.
Sneak, 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 sneak. Sneak, 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 sneak. Steal.
Gulo is basically like Gulo's just like, hey Shard, you wanna go take a score and scout ahead? Sure. Okay, I'm up for it.
I'm sure we won't find any wandering Abbey dwellers.
Yep. And so we'll move slower, but we'll meet up with you. And I certainly won't break camp in a hurry to rush in a different direction.
On bad intel. Yep. And so Euphis steals the banner because apparently everybody wants this banner. And this poor fox, Urfig,
It's just like, oh hell.
He's like, "Hey, are you stealing that
Fuck.
thwack?"
Yeah.
Oh, and Yufus walks right past the sentries. Clearly, Gulu didn't invest in the absolute best people, but
Yeah. I
Just
wonder
like,
what their
hey.
home is like.
he's just like, I mean, he's literally carrying the banner. He's like, hi guys. Hey.
Just gonna take this to get washed. I'll bring it back in the morning, I swear.
I know a really good dry cleaning place.
I can wash all the squirrel gore off of it after you guys murdered everybody.
Yeah, we get the idea. Move along.
Yeah. And then Yufus sings. Like I said, he's store brand book conf.
Yeah, and I really like this song because it's fun and it shows Euphys's more roguish attitude. And in the book, the audiobook, it's like super upbeat with this
Yep.
kind of like lute guitar like backing to it. It's just really great.
There's a lot of
skipped
stringed
it.
instruments. Well, you should get the audiobook because it's great.
And Urfig wakes up and is like, "Oh, why does my head hurt? Why is my sword gone? And oh, Gulo's gonna hurt me."
I know. Yeah, this is what I'll tell him.
Yeah, Gulo. Asgore showed up and he totally stole that banner that you stole from all those dead squirrels, and he went that way. Isn't that right, Tracker? Urfig, is there something wrong with your face? Why do you keep winking? Isn't that right? Didn't he go that way? Oh yeah, he totally went that way.
I mean, I found some watervole tracks, but I guess they're the same size as a Wolverine's.
I mean, look, you could see here, you know where it looks like a banner kind of obscured these watervole tracks? No. This is Asgore's tracks.
Mhm.
I thought this was kind of clever as far as like desperately thinking of something that will save your life goes.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Fear of a Gulo-related death is the #1 leading cause of vermin story development in this book. Ask your doctor if Gulophilia is right for you. Side effects include irrational worrying, self-doubt, fear of dying, infighting, and telling the boss what he wants to hear. Once you've started taking Gulophilia, you must continue taking it for the rest of your life or face a gruesome, untimely death. Why worry about anything else when you too can take Gulophilia? Gulophilia. None of your other concerns even come close.
Storm restrictions apply.
Got like people prancing in the background with like Gulo like hunting behind them.
Yes. And there's just this calm orchestral music in the background.
Yep. Pushing people on swings. Yep. So then chapter 14, we're back with Tam in the crew.
In the rain.
In the rain. And so they decide to start moving on again. And they say to Ferdinand, they're like, why don't you do some singing? And Ferdinand's like, there's a frog in my throat. No, it's probably bruised from when Doogie punched you there.
Yeah, that never comes up again. Like none of their bruises or hurts are ever mentioned ever again. But you gotta think they still have them and they're still bothering them.
Yeah, the only little comment in this chapter is Doogie blew rainwater off his swollen nose, and that's it.
Yes, that's right.
That's it. Like all those beatings, and he's like, my nose is a little swollen today. Otherwise, I'm perfectly cool.
And this song he sings is probably one of my favorites in the entire series. This thing is hilarious.
It's pretty great.
So the Gallopers come back, and
They get in trouble.
oh yeah, so they mentioned that they saw, like, they actually caught up with and saw Gulo and all of them, and they're like, what did we literally tell you? Don't go near these guys. And the Gallopers are like, oh, they never would have caught us. And immediately the Brigadier and like disciplines them. He's like, look, this is so like complete you got good information. You completely disobeyed our orders. This is insubordination. Sorry, we're disciplining you right now. And they look to One Will, and he's like, no, go, you heard him. And
I'm of two minds here. One, they're like, yeah, you got us good intel. I understand why they need to maintain the order because you're a soldier, you follow orders.
Mm-hmm.
This could have gone off completely terrible. But at the same time, these kids were trying to do a good job. But this is probably the best thing they can do is like, look, you got us good intel, but you're on dish duty until further notice.
I mean, besides, Tam, Doogie, and Ferdinand have to go off and play at being scouts because they're the main characters.
I don't make the rules, guys. They're the plot characters. We all know it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the brigadier even says, like, look, they'll become splendid officers and perilous warriors one day, but they need to learn to follow, or they got to learn the hard lessons sometimes. And they don't punish them too very severely either. Like, the brigadier acknowledges that they did a good thing, so that's why they're just on dish duty. It's not like, hey, we're sending you back to the mountain because you're out of control or anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like how he eyed them, like, as they're walking away, he like eyed them with a fatherly eye. I was like, aw, he's just a big softie.
Oh, of course. And Tam immediately, I like how they say, like, oh, Tam, Doogie, and Ferdinand should go and, keep an eye on him. And One Will is like, I don't know, Doogie's not much of a galloper looking guy. But then Tam immediately says, like, look, yes, that's true. But if we're caught, the three of us can handle ourselves, and Doogie can very much handle himself.
Mm.
And Brigadier immediately says, like, took the words out of my mouth. And I like that, where Tam fits in very nicely with the Long Patrol.
Mm-hmm. Because for once in his life, he actually has somebody competent giving the orders.
Yes. He's with smart people. And we then get Tam, Doogie, and Ferdinand off on their own, and I would love an entire book with just the three of them going on an adventure together.
Oh, yeah. And they start doing impressions of each other.
Yes.
And it is so good in the audiobook. Audiobook makes it 10 times better. I know I've said it, a bunch of times already. I'm going to keep saying it because the actors doing impressions of their characters doing impressions of the other characters, it's the best thing.
Yep.
It definitely is.
Yep. And they decide to do the time-honored tradition of, hey, let's split up. That can't possibly go wrong. And Tam receives some more drain damage.
Yeah.
He's certainly competing with Martin.
Yep. He's like, well, if I'm going to wield the sword, might as well be in the right mindset. Thwack, 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 thwack.
Something went down, hit him out the tree.
Look, Ma, I hit myself a squirrel.
I have no idea why I decided to do the hillbilly accent there, but
Mama, another gator's in the house. If you know what reference that is, if any of you in the audience know what reference that was from, please email or tweet at us.
You'll win our congratulations.
And we'll say, hey, you're pretty smart. You probably watched this movie once.
So the next chapter, which has a picture of Martin's sword. Gee, I wonder what's going to happen in this chapter. We see the most dramatic moment yet. Abbot Humble is playing tea with the Dibbons, and it's adorable.
I love this so much.
It's so cute. And I love too where he goes, these look nice. I like fresh scones. And Mimsy's like, they're not sconeses. They cream and strawberry cake I just made.
Oh, of course. My old eyes aren't so good these days.
Yep. Oh, so good. And then Armel and Brookie show up. And she said, we have an interesting little moment, something that I think is constant throughout the series, where she says, like, look, I don't know whether you'll believe this, but Martin the Warrior appeared to me. And he says, why should I doubt you? Did our warrior speak? I've noticed I think in every single one of these, whenever somebody's been visited by Martin and brings it up, everyone immediately believes them.
Except for, I think Mother Melis had some doubts. She's like, are you sure the spirit, came and talked to you? Because she was really, really, really opposed to these kids going off on an adventure. Marielle and Dandon and Dury.
Yeah,
That's
that's
because she was
true.
being overprotective. It's just like, I don't want to believe it because I don't want it to be true.
Right.
I think also the time period in that one makes sense because that's like one of the very first times that Martin ever appeared to anyone to give them like orders or advice.
Mhm.
And so it would make sense that at least one person would completely be like, no, 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 no. Like, this sounds wrong. Also, this is the exact opposite where they're like, oh, send 2 inexperienced kids off on their own? Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, she tells Abbott Humble that Martin wants Brookie and me to take his sword and find some dude who lost and sold his sword. And everyone's like, okay, yeah, we should act on what Martin said. And we get a good moment where Skipper passes his sling and stones to Brookie. I really like that. Like, here, you're going to need these. They've always been good to me.
Now, let
And
me assign
Skipper-
you these extra guards because, that would be
Yeah.
the smart thing to do. No, we're going alone. No, you're not.
Right.
Yes.
I'm setting you guards. But Martin,
Did-
I don't care what Martin said. This is common sense.
Yeah.
But
Common
see,
sense does not exist in this book.
insert the word Jesus in place of Martin. Like, I don't care what Jesus said. I'm disobeying Jesus. It's like,
And now, yeah, I just put, and now the idiot ball has been firmly grasped. Yes, let's not give Armel and Brookie guards. Just let these 2 inexperienced bumpkins run off when they're brutal savages in Mossflower. Martin never said, don't take help.
yeah.
Like, I can't remember if I mentioned this during the actual show or before we started recording, but back in the Bellmaker, Martin gave specific orders for specific people to go. However, Finbar Galedeep, Logalog, and the entire Gaussum clan went with them as well. And yes, things didn't turn out too well for Finbar, but that's what happens when you take on a guy with razor-sharp claws with no weapon. He decided to go the Craigham route of, I'm going to throw my weapons away and fight hand-to-hand.
Yes.
But, he never said, don't let anyone else help you. And so in this case, like, yeah, give them some bodyguards because they've already established that there's probably going to be some bad stuff happening. Like, Brookie, we get the hint that she is at least, she's been outside of Redwall plenty of times. Like, otters are usually more prone to being tougher characters in these books and things like that. And obviously Skipper, has confidence in her. Armel, we get the idea that she's never left the Abbey.
Yes.
Like,
At least Tansy had experience, going out in the Mossflower to pick herbs.
yeah. And
I
that
think that's what Armel said. She went out to gather herbs a few times.
Yeah, but even then, like with Tansy, they find out that Tansy, Picknam, and oh gosh, Cracklin run off on their own to St. Ninian's. The rest of Redwall is like, whoa, wait a minute, don't go there on your own. Like, they have to run off after them, and the owl whose name I forget, I'm forgetting everybody's name today. Geralt is like, whoa, hang on, we need to bring some help because they're probably going to be in trouble. Like, just common sense stuff like that throughout the series. This one is really dumb. like I get, yes, Martin gave you orders and you should do that, but he never said, send them off on their own where they're probably going to get brutally murdered and eaten.
Yes.
And the Redwallers do give them good support of like, here's travel packs and all this stuff. At least they don't like run off in the middle of the night on their own without telling anybody, which again, we have seen that many times.
Yes.
But I also, this was the point where I immediately did like a 180 in the very next page, but I wrote, maybe Brookie could be good in a fight, but she's obviously not taking this seriously. I will give her the benefit of the doubt, though. And immediately on the very next chapter, it said that, even Brookie knew this was no time for laughter. She pressed her uncle's big paw. Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on them both. Basically, it's Armel and the sword. So
Mhm.
immediately I'm like, okay, she is taking this seriously. I like her.
I mean, it's still better than our Harry Potter trio that becomes a quad in Moral Fox.
Yes.
Barely.
Oh,
Because what literally happens in the next chapter,
God.
right outside Redwall, I might add,
Yeah.
like literally outside the door.
Yeah. I still like, I'll lead the way. Falls into a ditch.
Yeah.
These two have the worst luck in this chapter. They're barely away from the Abbey. They fall into a ditch, and then they find a snake, which, yes, it turns out to be a grass snake, but still.
No, actually, it's not. It's an adder.
No,
It
they
really
say
is an adder.
It really is an adder. Like she said,
Wait,
"Oh,
really?
it's a grass snake." Yeah, and then she clears away the debris, and it's actually an adder, and she thinks it's hilarious. She's like, "Oh, haha, it was
Oh, I
an
missed
adder."
that. I totally
Yeah.
missed that.
Double check.
Look at this bag. Whoops. Silly me. It was an adder after all. Whoops, I missed that. But I do like the moment where it says, "Well, are you an adder? I am death to all beasts." And Brookie's like, Are you really? Well, what can we do for you, Mr. Death?"
Yeah.
That was hilarious. And
You know,
then she
it's
takes
just-
care of it.
She couldn't identify an adder, but it's like, Brookflow, you adder know better.
Uh,
I just saw it went, look, Armel, a snake. Snake, you go down the hole. Or actually, it's since they're in the ditch, Snakey, stay down the hole.
yes.
I
She
don't
definitely-
need this. I'll go find a different series. I'm not-
Yeah, and so, I like that, yeah. Let's leave Mr. Death to his nap. I like how they just keep calling him Mr. Death.
Yes.
So they start leaving, and at this point, I finished this part this morning, and I just had to write down, I wish I wasn't reading this before I ate breakfast.
Yes.
And we get an immediate contrast between these two and Tam's group in terms of traveling experience, where they're just sort of on their way, not really knowing what to look for, singing songs. Whereas Tam's group, they were making little jokes, but they were staying on point. And as soon as they started spotting like they're nearby, they quiet down.
Yep.
And we then find out, well, after they finish singing, Shard and his 20 foxes and Ermine just happen to be really close by.
Oh, hi.
Yep. And yeah, I'm sure they'll miss the two inexperienced travelers that are singing loudly. Oh, they're immediately captured.
Yep.
And
This
bad
isn't
luck.
that far from Redwall.
No,
No.
like I said, there's bad luck, and then there's this.
Although
Yeah.
Skipper was talking about a couple of guards. Like, I think even if they took a couple of guards, I think they'd be overpowered by 20 foxes and ermine.
This is very true. The only thing I could think of is if they had two guards, those guards could at least help get those two to safety, or like do the sacrifice play of you two run for it and we'll hold them off.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think 2 versus 20 wouldn't have made much of a difference unless it was 2 fully grown badgers, in which case, bye everybody.
Yep.
And that's the end of book 1.
Yep. And frankly, for the first time reading this one, yeah, this is actually a nice change. Not, I won't say change of pace. It's this. I mean, it's the same kind of plot where Redwall is threatened by some sort of vermin. It's a new type, to be certain, and this is dark as Jake's has ever gone so far. You guys keep hyping Doomwhite, so we'll see. But yeah, this is definitely a good read, even if I'm still annoyed at our Harry Potter-esque, hey, Martin said we have to do this thing, let's do this, but not think through any real-life consequences here.
Yep. Yeah, I gotta say, I actually had a few moments where I forgot to write down notes because I was just reading it and having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the cast of this story, and Tam and Doogie are two of my new favorite pair of protagonists.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yep. I missed the long patrol sort of banter, and I just really like Hares. I mean, most Hares. And these officers are great. I really like the twins. There's some interesting stuff coming up about the twins, and kind of their arc. And I don't know. I think everything is kind of building to. There's several cliffhangers that we're left with, so that's cool.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and even though I've read this one before, I honestly don't remember much about it. Like, I actually don't think I remember anything about it. So it's kind of like reading it for the first time again. And and I've enjoyed it so far, so that's actually a good thing. I'm glad I forgot it, so this way I can re-experience it.
And I've said it several times before. I will continue saying it probably till the end of book 3. This is my favorite book in the series. It's fantastic. It blends together so many elements from other Redwall books just seamlessly. It's like half Mossflower, half Long Patrol right at the beginning, but then as we get into books 2 and 3, that formula is going to shift a little bit. It's going to bring in some stuff from some other books. And it's so good. And the audiobook is just so good. The music is fantastic. The voice actors were on point, except for the weird Gulo is to Clooney what Clooney's voice was to Western Europe. Gulo's accent is to Eastern Europe.
Yes.
Just weird. But I love it so much. It has a very special place in my heart. I'm sure there's some nostalgia in here, but it's so tightly written. Almost every single song, I know, Pete, it can be a little difficult to read them, but to hear them fully orchestrated, being sung by a whole group of people is just fantastic.
It's so nice not to be alone in gushing over the audiobook.
Which I will be able to do for not only Rakkety Tam, but the next 3 after this, because
Sweet.
I have 4 audiobooks. So,
Hooray.
ladies and gentlemen, you are going to get at least another 5 or 6 months of me gushing over audiobooks alongside Katie.
Hooray!
Cool. Okay.
So,
So, anyone else want to comment more on the book, or?
no.
Nope,
So
I've been
far.
really good about not spoiling things so far, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut.
Thank you.
Spoilers!
So,
I had to get at least one in there.
Does Arflo ever come back again? The otter?
Should I spoil?
no.
Okay.
Okay. I just noticed, like, he shows up, he had his own little chapter, and then he appears to say, like, these two are innocent, and then we never see him again for the rest of the section.
Nope, I'm just going to walk off stage. Sorry, guys.
I will tell you nothing.
Okay.
At least on air.
Yes.
So, yeah. Pete, shall I tell people where they can find us online?
I was going to suggest that.
Thank you. All right. You can find us at recorderonthewall.com. We are on iTunes, Apple, whatever, Google Play Podcasts, or whatever they're calling it now, YouTube Podcasts. I don't know. We're on all those podcasting sites and things, and Spotify's and stuffs. And we also are featured somewhere on the official Redwall forums. We are on the Rulelia subreddit. We are also Matthias, you're distracting me. That's my catchphrase. Just wrote because nobody can see it. You can find us at Jeremy and Hales. You can also communicate with us. We are on Twitter at ROTWpod. And when I say we, I mean Pete and maybe everyone who isn't me, because I don't know how to use Twitter and I don't want to know. We also have an email address, which I do know how to use, but I never check it. So Pete runs that as well. rotwpod@gmail.com. Feel free to send us messages, emails. If you would like to be a guest on the show, we are always up for that. We also, if you don't want to be on a mainline show, we are going to be doing more special episodes as we tend to do. We'll be doing more food episodes because of course we will.
Indeed.
And that is it. And we look forward to all of you listening to us next time or re-listening to this. If this is like your 50th time listening to this episode in, 4 years from now, awesome. And we look forward to you listening to our next show, which will be Rakkety Tam Book 2. And the title of that, I am totally not stalling for time as I look for the name of it. The Warrior Who Gained a Sword.
I wonder what that means.
Oh, I'm sure it's nothing important. But
Of
while he
course
does
not.
that, while he verifies that that's actually right.
I read it right out of the book.
Yeah.
You know what? I know what that means. Euphis is gonna wield Martin's sword.
It's gonna be great.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, right.
But by the
Euphis.
way, we do have one additional review on iTunes. It's just a star rating, no text reviews. But we would really like it if someone would leave us one. We'll even mention their name on air.
Yeah.
Indeed. Is it all 5 stars still? Are we still perfect?
Yeah, we're still all 5 stars.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Flawless victory. Awesome. Well, as always, I'm Jeremy.
I'm Pete.
I'm Matthias.
And I'm Katie. Out polliting each other.
And
This
we're
is your
the
fault,
polite
Katie.
recorders
Your
on the
fault.
wall.
Your fault.
Your fault.
Your fault.
Your
Is
fault.
this where they punch it out?
Yeah. All right, throw down your weapons. We're gonna draw a line in the sand.
I'm not gonna hit a girl, specifically a blind girl. I'm not gonna do it.
Sweet, I'm gonna win.
And we're cutting it off there.
Default.